Works meeting to order for May 24th. Welcome here, and we'll get through it quickly because it's a nice night and we can go out and enjoy the weather. So it's good to be here. Up first, we have Highway. Tony, you want to take it away?
Sure.
Uh-oh. Sorry.
Tony was on vacation, so he's all geared up. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Refreshing, ready to go.
No, I was refreshed for about 15 minutes.
Oh, and you came back?
All the stress came rushing back, right?
Yeah, you're ready to go on vacation again, right?
Yes, I am. Well, we were finally able to dismantle our snow and ice equipment. We've completed the sweeping of all the county roads and bridge washing. Some of that's still ongoing when we have some downtime. Roadside mowing's been slow to get started. We got a lot of tractors that are down, but the airport has been mowed. We started our outpost and transfer station mowing. Driveway pipe installations are ongoing. The usual ditch and culvert maintenance. We began our hot mix patching of some of the county roads, and we've completed some street sweeping for the village of Valatia, Kinnerhook and Chatham, as well as some sweeping for New York State DOT on 23B and Fairview Avenue. Culvert replacements and drainage work on County Route 15 in the town of Taconic, that's all been completed. Culvert replacements and drainage work on County Route 9 in the towns of Ghent and Chatham has been completed. We've completed 6.8 miles of shoulder reconstruction on County Route 15 in the town of Taconic. We started painting intersection stop bars, some head wall repairs and replacements on County Route 9 in the town of Chatham. Brush clearing at DSS and stump grinding at the courthouse. It's done for facilities. Hot in place recycling on County Routes 8, 12, and 9, tentatively scheduled to begin the first week in June, weather permitting and depending on where they're at in their schedule. And then hot mix paving will follow to complete those roads. Chip sealing on County Routes 6 and 11 is tentatively scheduled to begin on June 1st. Weather permitting. Personnel update, one employee out on extended sick leave, and we were able to hire one highway equipment maintenance.
Hey, round of applause.
Yeah. He's made it to day 2.
All right. That's the improvement.
Yeah. He's made it 47 more hours than last.
Okay.
Oh,
How much you paying him off to go?
It's costing me a lot of money, but he's staying. Our annual safety training day, that's held for the counties, towns, and villages, and the city of Hudson, scheduled for June 13th and 14th at the county fairgrounds. And next is resolution requests. First one's authorization to sell at auction surplus miscellaneous shop equipment, standards, and obsolete vehicle parts, whereas these items have outlived their useful life and or do not fit any vehicles in our fleet, and the sale of them will generate revenue for the county.
I
Move
can do that.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed?
And the next one. Authorization to increase the CHIPS expenditure, DO 5E5112-2000, E2000, and the CHIPS revenue line by $1,940,035.89, whereas New York State has elected to give Columbia County $384,997.44 in extreme winter recovery, $629,190.18 in paid New York, and $419,460.12 in the new patch our potholes funding that we discussed last month. And whereas New York State has made available $506,388.15 in rollover funds from our 2021-2022 apportionment, and whereas it was unknown that Columbia County would be receiving this money at the time the budget was prepared.
Wow.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Always good to take money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tony shouldn't have any trouble spending it all this year with the price of laptop. Sometimes when you get a good funding, it's hard to spend it, but not this year.
Towns get extra too? We do.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody should have done
a
it.
little bit extra.
And the final, resolution request is authorization to purchase one 2022 Cam Superline 7-ton, 19-foot split tilt deck trailer from Trailers LLC of Carroll for a cost including any potential increases not to exceed $12,000. This purchase will be paid for with funds from the vehicular equipment line, and the balance in the budget to cover this cost is $261,590. Whereas this trailer is needed to haul our roller and other equipment that is not able to be hauled on our existing tilt deck trailers due to weight capacities, and whereas Trailers Inc. was the only quote received out of 4 requests.
Your roller's less than 6 ton or something?
Our new patch rollers, just slightly over the capacity of the 2 older tilt deck trailers that we have now, and both of those are fairly old, and last year was squatting pretty well, so.
You're good on the BBW.
Yeah, we made sure we, we checked everything before. So this was more than enough. to
Don't fill it with water.
Yeah, well, that's what we had to do with the other trailer.
You gonna move it?
I'll let somebody else. do it.
I'll do it then.
I'll move it.
There you go. I've heard the answers. I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you back from your vacation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions for Tony?
Awesome.
Do you offer any training for your crew, to prepare for when the public doesn't?
You don't need that, Dave. Is that there?
In terms
By
of,
this?
like.
Some neighbors saying, hey, I don't like what you're doing, and walking into your work zone. They shut down everything.
No, I don't think we offer any formal training in that. But it's coming from an incident that you're aware of.
Perhaps, not with the county. But, just, there's an interesting thing that was brought up. Because you don't see it being offered, like what you do when someone walks in, when machines are moving.
Chain yourself to a tree.
You usually think people have common sense not to do that, but.
I know, we've had incidents.
They will if they think they know more than the person running the job, so.
Yeah, right.
Take liberties.
Yeah, we've had some angry bicyclists who felt that they should be in, because they can fit past the machine, who felt that they didn't need to stop with, obey the traffic.
Yeah.
But, the firemen, and they get a little irate.
Yeah.
But no, as far as formal training, might be something to look into though. I wonder
Yeah.
if Cornell has anything.
Yeah.
Talk to David,
Or
Moore,
OSHA,
he would be the person to talk to.
Passion or
Yeah.
OSHA trainings or whatever.
Right.
Even, maybe,
I'll
That's
what I was, some de-escalation training,
Oh, okay.
man, the works on intrusions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think she teaches some of it.
Oh, okay.
what was
What's
that,
the
John?
name?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the name? My girlfriend works for State DOT.
Oh.
In their, safety court, she's a safety coordinator.
Mhm.
So I've heard her talk about this before, so I just say to Tony, I'll have him get talk about.
Me too.
It's probably issues that are gonna become more and more prevalent.
Oh, I'm sure.
The motoring public doesn't care about you, that is the worst part of
That
it.
is true.
What did he say?
The road is theirs. At least that's their opinion.
The
Motoring public does not care about the work.
Bikes are more authoritative.
Yeah.
All right, Jolene is up next with solid waste.
Don out. You hear, if you get anything from him, let me know, because I'll have, not that stuff going on.
Do you want resolutions or do you want your report?
Can I have some more questions?
By yourself.
Which one you want to do
Send
first?
By
Do
yourself.
the report first.
Okay.
For next year? Are you locked in, or do you have to go?
We're still locked in. We've met our requirement, our minimums. We've only got, I think, 30 or 40,000 left in the salt bucket to get us started for next year, but
Sure.
we're pretty stocked right now.
Okay,
But
I can do that.
I don't see the price staying as low as it was this year. And then you buy American salt.
Yeah, that whole Canadian
Yeah.
coup or American coup.
Yeah.
Canadian product.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Sorry, I digress, Ronald. So-
That's all right, no. That's why we're here,
Talk fast.
ask questions.
Okay, so the solid waste master plan, the comments are being compiled and responded to by B&L. And the final document will be submitted to DEC for their review. Provided everything is good, we will have the board adopt it once we receive approval from DEC. Food scrap program. We've had some contamination at the Greenport station last week, but the other stations seem to be having a good product. Ron, Ray, Wendy, and I went over to Greene County to see their new eco-rich food scrap digester. Really cool machine. It has the capability of accepting 1,000 pounds of food scrap, and in turn, it produces in 24 hours 100 pounds of fertilizer. The machine qualifies for a new grant under DEC, which would be up to a 75% reimbursement. DEC went to look at it the day after we did, was highly impressed by the quality of the machine and its capabilities. So after further conversation, it's something that we have the money in the budget to purchase. It's time sensitive as there's a grant, and the sooner we get in on it, the sooner.
The backlog is still 8 or 9 months or something to get it anyway.
Yeah,
So,
well, hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker with this one because it's under their
but you never
climate
know.
smart initiatives.
Right, okay.
So when I get to the end of the report, I would like to have the possibility of purchasing it.
It was a very impressive machine. I went there with a little skeptical, but it was pretty neat. You
It
know?
was. We would use it at the Greenport transfer station. We will still use the 2 farms that we have to divert the other material. And once we get a better handle on it, this has the capability of taking all food scrap. We're currently, they're taking very limited. So as we grow the program, it's something that if we wanted to reach out to restaurants, we could charge a tipping fee and recoup some of the revenue for it. So.
So it's not in there long enough to ferment, to produce methane,
No, actually, it's really interesting. It's,
making baby food.
it's a 3-phase unit and it's not running power continuously. It can actually do the digestion process within a 24-hour period.
So is it all mechanical?
It's all
digestion?
It's
mechanical.
an auger and heat, and it's a sealed stainless steel chamber with an auger, and they cook
So
it,
it's
you know.
those thermal and.
Yes, it is
Right.
thermal, correct. So what's happening is that they're loading it up periodically. Okay, so as that food scrap is coming in, and it could be over a day, it could be over a week.
Right now, I think they're taking a week to collect 1,000
collect
pounds,
about
and then they
1,000
run it
pounds.
for 24 hours and digest it. And
Yeah.
then they take out the product and they're putting it in the containers and giving it back to the residents. You know, it's a nice looking product. I mean, it looks just like fertilizer you'd buy at a peat moss store, you know. And so,
Wow.
You have to put up high tensile wire to keep the bear out?
No.
no, because it's sealed in
Yeah.
within itself. It's not like an open food compost. That's one of the problems with open food composting piles, but,
Yeah, as long as they keep the area clean, you shouldn't have a problem with animals, because again, the entire unit itself is contained.
Has the
did we bring a
self-loader.
flyer? Did you bring a brochure?
You know what happened? They sent me a video and I couldn't open it. We were trying
Oh.
all day today.
Oh, sorry.
But I
Well, let's
apologize
get that
for
for
that.
everybody.
I'll
another
send it
time.
out, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll send it.
yeah, but it's really, a really interesting machine. And I think that we should get in on it sooner rather than later because a number of counties have also been looking at it.
Yeah.
So, but it'd be a good program. It's something that maybe later on we can expand. We get this program up and running.
And have they been on the market long enough to know?
Yeah.
Yeah, around a while.
Actually, yeah, and we found a lot of them went smaller and ended up having like every year to purchase a bigger and bigger unit. The one we went and looked at, we're pretty confident that we don't want to go any bigger than that. It would suit our
You might
needs.
have, if it really got working well, you might have multiple ones, you know,
But
One with
keep it
latex
controllable.
panels you can sell tickets to and bring the kids. No money, no money.
I see another permit coming down. No more permits or tickets.
I saw it in the street here, you know, but.
You never know.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that they actually have, the bags, they're plastic, or excuse me, they're biodegradable
Biodegradable
bags. So
bags.
that way all the waste goes into the bag, the entire bag goes into the bin with it, and it actually degrades at the same time. So it really works out well. So it's a clean operation also.
Very clean.
When I was a kid, we did field trips to Columbia Boxford. Remember that place?
Yeah, I do, well.
Can't believe they brought us through there.
The 30,000, is that the 25%? That's the total cost.
Well, actually, the total cost, and I have a resolution.
Okay, so I'm
yeah.
jumping the gun.
Yeah, and I'll give you the breakdown when
Okay.
we do that, okay?
Yep.
Household hazardous waste event, as you all know, we had it. It was very, very successful.
My God.
We had 556 cars with over 666 households participating. The total bill for the collection was $28,033, which is eligible for the 50% reimbursement through DEC. We took in 11,000 gallons of paint, 7,000 was latex, 4,000 was oil-based. The charge for just the paint would have been $30,000, but that's picked up by Paint Care. We're very fortunate that we have a wonderful vendor that we work with, and the state was extremely cooperative, considering we were the first in New York State to do a Paint Care program. So the second collection is going to be held on Sunday, June 5th, between the hours of 8 and 1 at the Columbia County Fire Training Center on Grandin Inch Drive. And by the phone calls that we're receiving, I think it's going to be just as busy. A lot of the residents were first timers, situation being that they either did renovation or they purchased a home that had all this material in it. I did reach out to New York State DEC to discuss with them that maybe some regulations need to be put on the real estate, real estate agents, that before somebody sells a house, that they need to have it cleaned out. And whether that be they all get together and do a bid with one of these collection agencies so that they can do it more often or something along those lines, that has to happen. These people were purchasing properties online,
Yep, sight unseen.
finding barns.
Making lots of money on it too, and why are we footing the bill for it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the material that was coming in,
Yeah.
they were unaware that was even on the property until they went into the shed or to the barn or to the attic.
It shocks me that we had 11,000 gallons of paint in Columbia County to throw away in the first place. At the cost of it,
Almost all of it, so thank you again. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah,
It is very expensive to buy paint, extremely.
nobody uses it all, and
I mean, there was a lot of brand new cans that weren't even open in good shape.
Yeah.
And, wrong color. I don't know, but maybe buy those little test kits before you buy gallons. So that's where we are with the next collection. Upgrading to the stations, our bid did come back for the compactors. The sole bidder was Waste Equip for a total bid price of $441,280, which includes equipment and installation of all 8 compactors. And this was part of our upgrades to the stations.
that we approved about 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Started our song, but
Paving, the paving is completed at all the stations except for Greenport and Gallatin because construction is still going on at both of those. They will probably be in the fall. The Climate Carnival, again, a one-day event celebrating Columbia County and our commitment to the environmental initiatives. We have so far, I believe, 40 vendors that are going to be participating in the event. Again, shout out to Don Meltz in the planning department. He has been amazing, as has Angelo Nero out to the fairgrounds. We were out there today walking the site, and he has been absolutely wonderful and very supportive of this. So if you know anybody interested, visit our website and join us that day. E-commerce. So the department has been working with MIS and the Treasurer's Office to set up a web store to sell our waste tags and eventually our recycling permits online. We hope to have it up and running in the fall, and this will allow residents to be able to purchase their commodities by credit or debit card, something we can't do at the smaller stations due to a lot of issues. What will happen is they will go online, they'll make the purchase. We will put the product together. They will list what station they're going to pick it up at, and they will pick it up at the station. We will not be mailing anything out to any residents. It'll just be one of those conveniences that they can purchase it ahead of time, and within the week they'll get a delivery date of when they can pick it up, and it'll be available. So that's going to be happening in the fall. I'll have a contract for you at the next committee meeting from the vendor that we're going to be looking at to set up this, and all expenses will be paid by the consumer using the website.
And will you still make them available like at the Culvert Town Hall? Yeah.
Yep. It's just gonna be just one more
One more
option for
option.
people.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I'll took that away from the town clerks, we'd have to work on the minutes a little more other than.
Don't they do them just before the next month's meeting? Is that what you do? You know?
This program will segue right into selling fertilizer. Buy,
There you go.
buy 10 pounds.
Boy,
Thank you.
we have till next August to remember that. That's gonna be Wendy's, one of her jobs. Okay, so I have the two resolutions before the committee. The first one is authorization to purchase the 8 compactor systems at the total price of $441,280. Again, that includes the installation. And whereas the compactor units are over 30 years old, need to be replaced due to the inability to get parts, and they're at the end of their useful life.
Yes, gotta move it.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Right.
Is that something you can?
How many years has it been now, Joe?
Is that-
What, how many years have it been now? Did you say?
Probably about 34. I figured 35. I think Copac is the oldest. That was the first station built. So they
So it's
had a good run.
Yeah.
They had a really good run.
Got your money's worth.
We definitely did. We definitely did. And believe me, I'm sure they're gonna last, those lasted longer than the new ones, but we shall see.
Oh, I know.
So the next one is authorization to purchase the Eco-Rich ER1000 food waste digester. It has the autoloader and built-in crusher unit for a total cost of $77,100. Whereas effective January 2022, the New York State Food Donation and Food Scrap Recycling Law went into effect. And Columbia County has started to collect our food scraps at our stations. And this equipment will be eligible for a grant to receive up to 75% reimbursement and allow us to further expand the program to meet the needs. And we'll be taking this out of our vehicular fund, has 175,000 left in it, because we did ask for the single axle truck that's build out date is
But we
23
can't
or
get him, so.
24. So the money is there.
So how would it work, like if people, you've got various places where people are leaving food, and then all the scraps will be taken to one location?
Yep, we're gonna be taking them to the green part. We already purchased a trailer, which will go under this bid, and the next pickup truck will also fall under this bid.
And how big is this thing?
Not the size of a van, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
That's a good.
So I apologize. I tried so hard to get those videos sent, and they just,
I do have a picture, I think, but I don't know if it does it any justice or not, but,
there was a huge write-up in the Register Star for Greene County when they did it last month. And they've already outgrown their machine.
here's a quick picture of it. I mean, it loads the garbage cans by itself, you know, you hook
Yeah,
them onto a
besides
chain
what-
type
yeah,
thing.
For us, it's gonna be
Oh, I see.
fine.
Very.
Sure, pass it
They're
around,
gonna
yeah.
go into the whole compost.
I lost it.
Yeah, be careful. Quite a
Supervisor Mussman has a
Yeah, it's
question.
just, it's a little vague to me, like, all right, I have scraps, what do I do with it?
You just bring it, put it
In
in
a
the bin.
bucket?
Yep, just dump it into the bucket up at Greenport, and then we feed it into the machine.
So I don't need this bag that you were talking about?
You don't need to have it.
They're just a
It's
convenient
just
way to do it,
the
so
option for
in
some
Greene
people.
County,
So
they're,
I have a bucket of scraps, I take the Greenport, I dump it in, nobody weighs it, nobody does anything, that's the end of it.
That's the end of
So
it.
what's this ban and all you're talking about? What's
That's
that
the
about?
machine.
That's the machine.
The size of.
The size of the machine.
Is about the size of the.
so we put it in, you know, garbage cans, small garbage cans, and then those garbage cans get loaded into this machine.
Machine and grinds it up. And then-
But if someone has scraps in Copac, they can leave them in Copac, and
Leave it
then
in
the
Copac.
county will ship
And
them out.
solid waste will go out,
Yeah.
pick it up.
Yeah, just like we're doing now.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
that's picking it up and bringing it there.
Yeah,
Right,
doing
now
it.
we're already doing that now, but we're
already
taking
doing
it to farms or something right
So how
now.
many cars are gonna go to Greenport with a bucket of waste? And how do they get in and go? How does that happen?
They're coming in now. The containers are located down by the pole barn. Residents are dumping in. Currently, we're taking them to Gromax. Kinderhook and Chatham is going to a farm up in Kinderhook, and Livingston and Germantown are going to a farm down in the border on Germantown.
So everyone goes to their local transfer station.
Nothing's gonna change
Take their
there.
stuff.
It's just, we're gonna have a machine that's gonna be able to process
Yeah.
it faster.
Rather than shipping to the farm and wait 5 years for it to turn into compost, we can,
What are the prohibitions now versus what they'll be allowed to do with this digester?
actually, this takes a lot of food.
This takes
Coffee filters and all that too?
everything.
Yeah.
It takes
Bones,
all.
you know,
Oh,
meat
yeah.
scraps, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it'll take meat,
Everything.
it'll take absolutely
So
everything,
it's really gonna be a good diverter for the methane
Yes.
producers on
Yeah.
landfills.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
for no question.
Yeah, I came home with a flyer. I'll try and circulate
Yeah.
that or something, and make a copy of that and send it around, but, yeah, we'll get some more information for everybody, but it's a neat machine.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
So how do the restaurants deal with this?
The restaurants right now, have their own vendors that they're paying a tipping fee for. That is something that we will explore once we get up and running, because they do have transportation costs. Whereas if they want to bring it into Greenport, they will pay a tipping fee. But we will be able to process it right there.
So
And to be
that-
honest, I'm really hopeful in a global situation. We've got a couple large dairy farms in our town that are very seriously looking at large digesters, and those large digesters can handle, a lot of manure with lots of food scraps. But what they're looking for is the real commercial people, like a truckload of lettuce that got turned away from Hannaford. Where does it go? Those type of diversions can go to those type of digesters in the future, and they want to produce gas, natural gas, and connect to the pipeline. And it's Jolene and I have met with a couple of this company from Vermont a couple times, and if we could get some of those, but again, it's New York State red tape and hoops that they can't get through because New York State overregulates everything. But they're welcomed in Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. New York, where we want to be green, we don't allow that. But
Exactly.
and again, we've heard about the fact of the state wanting to pull back on gas, and yet these things can produce natural gas, which would allow people like Niagara Mohawk to achieve, their method of getting to green technology better. But yet we have to have gas infrastructure in order to be able to use it. So, we got to make up our minds. But speaking of that, does this, I assume that Wendy has looked at this. Does this qualify us for some climate smart initiatives
We
by
already,
having this?
by starting the food scrap program, we already had 2 points.
Okay.
It might under the silver, if we ever, bronze, we're good.
Yeah,
We're
okay,
pretty good.
yeah,
But in the future, as we progress and new initiatives come down the pike, this will
and
definitely.
is there
evolve.
extra money available to us because we're a climate smart community and we've done these things, and we
I'm
keep hearing that there's
sure-
extra money, so
I'm
where is
sure
it? That's what I
down
wanna
the
see,
I mean, this came out and it came out quick, and they're gonna
Yeah.
start awarding it July 1st. That's kind of why the grant is already written. I just need this component, a PO, and I'm purchasing it. So it's a great opportunity. I think coming down the pike, you're gonna see many, many more.
Well, Green County's already outgrown their unit supply. We
Yeah.
got one here. So we're looking into multiple units. up
We
there.
are eventually, the goal would be to put one in Chatham and put one in the southern end of the county. And that should handle everything that we have without an issue.
I'd like to move the resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, and that's all
We will get some more information on it shortly, but that is an impressive, critter.
Yeah, I've looked at many of them over the years, and this one was like, wow, okay. It's worth the time and the money.
Yeah, the fact that it's self-contained,
That's the key.
compared to the traditional windrowing operation, which is labor intensive, land intensive, this is a small, minor footprint compared to that type
I
of
went to an
operation.
operation like that with a big tub grinder.
Yeah.
They ended up with a lot of contamination blowing everywhere.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get roads. We did it for a number of years before and through a grant, and we were just unsuccessful. That's a full-time job, believe it or not. It's not just throwing something in a pile and waiting for it to break down. So. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, thank you again to you and Wendy and
Are you
Bob
coming
and
Sunday?
Bob and Karen. I'll stop, man.
We usually, hopefully not. Hopefully we've got this one under control.
I may come, but then there's a car show that day too, so I don't know, I'm waiting. You know? We're gonna let Joe go next with facilities, because he's got a short report, and Ray's got a number of things to talk about, so we'll hold him up.
Right, so, what we've done, for the, health department, we installed a new, syringe kiosk at the Livingston Hannaford. They said it was something that was done a couple years ago, and, Jack wanted a new one installed over there, so we went over and took care of that. Taking care of the routine maintenance on the air conditioners, changing out all the filters. We just started now, cleaning all the, coils on the outside units. The 560 parking lot, there was an issue during the farmer's market where someone had fallen over a curb. So they are now painted bright yellow. And we're gonna finish up the entrance curbing coming in. We just got the paint in yesterday, so we'll finish that. But the two that were, the issue, we're taking care of, I think about 2 weeks ago. We had the guys go over and take care of that. They're painted a nice green, it actually looked pretty good, but did become a tripping hazard, so they are now safety yellow.
Okay.
401, the window ACs, we've, started to install them, they are done. Working on a supply storeroom, and there's a resolution last month that to sell some of the auction items. I believe some of these green chairs are on that. I think we got one more day left and it expires, so I'll look tomorrow and see where we're at with that. 610, there must have been an issue with a faulty smoke head. I was away for 10 days, so I'm not aware of that, but Brian has this listed down. At the courthouse, rearranging the commissioner of jurors office again. Highway went over and took care of sweeping the parking lot for us. They grinded these stumps that we took the trees down last fall. Some of them were in danger of rotted. We had multiple limbs that kept falling, so they were taken down. We finally got that taken care of. Still working on getting quotes to get the parking lot sealed and restriped. Seems to be an ongoing issue that no one wants to call you back. This has been very tough for us to keep that process moving forward. Public safety building, we've installed the electric for the evidence refrigerators and prepping for the upcoming accreditation that they have going on there. Department of Social Services, we took on a large project there to help them rearrange their offices and move some of their departments together. Had to move a wall, rebuild a wall. Today we finished up running all the data lines for them, getting the electric hooked up. This company ROI, who DSS has hired for the cubicles to do that. We did our part. The process is still ongoing. Hopefully by the end of the week, everybody will be in their new cubicle.
Good.
Fire training center. The elevator shaft was finally finished by the contractor with their taping and sanding. We went and painted that, got that all ready for the grand opening. What else did we do? Yes, and helped them do that. Board of Elections, we delivered and picked up voting machines for the school board election. Over at Solid Waste, we had to install a new gate at the Germantown transfer station during paving. One of the posts got knocked down, and we had to put a new post in, but that took longer than we thought because we had to go through Dig Safe New York to make sure that we could dig, to put the new post in. And then we installed 2 new gates for them, also put some new wheels on Kinner transfer station, and we'll start working on Livingston's gates that are all, they're secured, but I think we can take the ones from Germantown and move them to Livingston because Germantown's gate opening has exceeded what the gates were currently, I think it's now 28 foot, so we had to buy two 14-footers, so we can reconfigure Livingston. We'll start working on that. The guys got everything prepped for the Veterans Honor Vet that was on Monday. The water and sewer, we continued doing our weekly checks. Finally did the final install of all the water meters, the outside readers. Airport weekly maintenance is complete. We had the trees that had fallen and taken down the fence. Those trees were all removed. Ray, did Brian forward you the quote from AC Fence? Roma wasn't interested.
Oh, no.
Brian Warden said he's just too busy.
Oh,
He said he
okay.
couldn't, so AC Fence, I think it was like 3,500.
I haven't seen that as of yet.
Okay.
So if
It
you
was-
forward my way, then.
I will forward it
Yeah.
to you, yes. I got it last week while I was in Florida and forwarded it to Brian. and-
Okay.
Yeah, things happen. Yeah, so that's fine. So I will
Yeah.
make sure it gets forwarded to you.
Yeah.
The trees, were they from a storm or did they just fall because they're old and?
I think one of them could have come down from a storm. It was a large willow tree, and they called it a branch, but this branch must have been about 24 inches round.
Yeah.
And it took down about 16 to 18 foot of fence.
Some of those branches on those little trees.
So that left the airport kind of unsecured, but we've got it pulled up enough to keep the deer off the runway, but it needs to be fixed. Yeah. Other issues that we, 2 employees out on FMLA. One of them is gonna be an extended period now. We're hoping the other one just had surgery a couple weeks ago, will be coming back. There was 2 out on workers' comp. One has returned, one is still out. Return date is, I believe, gonna be the 19th of June. And we just had one go out on COVID protocol that has since returned. That's all I had, and Ray, he did not give me anything for the airport. Any,
So yeah, I got covered the item as far as the airport on
Okay.
the fuel. So the fuel, the avgas, that installation, new tank, new pump and dispenser will be delivered the week of June 13th and then be installed.
I know all the prep work is ongoing, they're out
Correct.
there, they were, digging up the front yard and.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so all of that's been taken care of,
Okay.
but June 13th is when they're gonna go ahead and get that installed. And I think they indicated that the avgas area should be down for maybe 2 or 3 days at the most, and they've been coordinating that with
Okay.
Rich.
Okay, so Rich and.
Yep.
You don't know that, okay.
Joe, on air conditioning, it might be a thought. I talked to Brian about it, but on the 3rd floor of this building, there is a central air unit. That's a Chrysler unit from like 1960s, and I'm amazed that it still runs. But I've been hoping that we would do someday a larger project to do all the energy stuff, but it might pay just to get a quote on changing that unit out, because one of these days it's not gonna go. And
Right, you control certain areas, I mean.
Yeah,
most of the
it's not-
offices up on the 3rd
it's
floor,
not-
window units.
Yeah, most of you, I think there's 13 window units up there last I knew, but
Yeah.
that central air unit does do some of it, and, maybe just for light equipment, it might pay, because I think you could replace that today with equipment that would run on a third of the energy. It's not,
Almost.
it's not gonna pay for the upgrade, but like I say, you're gonna get stuck one of these hot days, and
13 window units, some meter must be spinning.
yeah.
That's just on the 3rd floor.
I just don't more,
You got 2nd floor in?
Oh, yeah,
It's a nice little.
It might pay to just have somebody get you a quote someday.
Okay.
What would it take to change that and
Okay.
factor it in someplace or other? 'Cause I'm amazed that sucker still goes.
That's because of the printer in there. They have to
Yeah.
keep it in.
Department of Health lose some vaccinations, the refrigerator plugged in the wrong circuit, or
Polio vaccines is what they lost. My understanding is that they were only polio, not any other vaccines. So there was an issue with the way that the transfer switch is set up. So again, there's a generator, backup generator. There is a transfer switch. In looking at the transfer switch, it appears as though it's a residential grade transfer switch. So it's actually not monitoring each of the 3 phases. So what's happening is that if it has 2 phases, still active, still running, providing 120, it's not tripping out. It's not transferring it to power. So the only way that unit really works is if it loses complete power. than the transfer switch trips, unfortunately.
Okay.
So a few items. Brian has been discussing and obtaining quotes, and we're going to try to get money or a grant through FEMA for a brand new generator, brand new transfer switch for that. In addition to that, we're looking at some other stopgap measures as well. An actual UPS system for the refrigerator units that would only be connected for those refrigerator units, those coolers. In addition to that, there is an alarm system with a dialer. However, it's very limited on that dialer. And what happens is the way that the dialer unfortunately is set right now, there's a 15-minute wait from the time the alarm trips before it actually sends out a signal to anyone, which is normally 911. And then 911 has to then figure out who's on call and then get to the health department. So there's almost been a half an hour loss as far as action time. I've been in contact with Smith Controls located out of Ghent to come up with a custom unit similar to what we actually have with the wastewater treatment plant, where it does a few things. You can have multiple alarms. So you can actually have an alarm for each one of the units. You can also then have an alarm for loss of power. So it can be temperature sensitive. You can have the loss of power. Each one would have its own separate alarm. And then you can have multiple phone numbers that it could call out to, as many as 8. So if the first person doesn't call back and acknowledge, it goes to the second person, and then so on and so forth. And you can also adjust the timing of those as well. So again, immediately, as soon as the alarm hits, you can have it send out the signal, or you can put in a time delay. The other nice thing is you can call into the unit as well. And we're gonna look at getting a 4 to 20 signal, so that way it can record the temperature, and you can monitor it by simply calling back into the unit to see what temperature each one of those refrigerators is at after the alarm is tripped or during normal operation.
Which will be good for reporting in case you do have a heat surge through the loss of power. You can say, it was at this temperature, these vaccines are not compromised.
Well, they actually do have that currently. So they actually do have monitors that actually trip out and log.
It'll
Yeah, they do have a log, but unfortunately, those units are not compatible where it can you can take a signal out of it, and then, like a 4 to 20 signal that will give you a range to then go ahead and put to another device. They're standalone devices right now, but those are required for the Department of Health, those data loggers. This is a little different above and beyond that. It's to update and create a custom dialing system to better serve them. Because right now it's just an old one signal, one phone number, pretty simple unit, and it doesn't really do it justice.
It should be pretty standard. I mean, you can do that with regular room thermostats today. The Wi-Fi thermostat stuff does all that today. So the technology's there. It's just
it's just getting it together and talking with other technology like the dialer and getting that out.
good.
And the Board of Supervisors got an email, how long ago was that? Pictures of our various fences that were in disrepair.
Yes, yeah.
Does any of that?
So, and I don't know if Joe knows, I don't think Joe was here. We were getting prices on the fences at the DMV parking lot some years ago, but then there was some problem with what the city would let us put there or something. And Brian wanted to go to something that was easier to maintain, and then the city had other rules. Do you remember any of that, Joe? Or
No, that was probably.
yeah, I think it was before you. It was a while ago now that we started on that. Yeah, we do have some fences that are.
Most of the pictures that were sent were from 610, which is a building that we are going to be getting rid of. But if you go by there, it doesn't look as bad as the pictures look.
We have since that fence was falling into the alleyway. We took a couple come-alongs and we actually pulled it up and then re-secured the fence posts. Part of it is our guys, when they plow snow, pile this fence. Not sure why, but so sometimes you create your own issues. But we that one is actually standing back up very nicely.
They look fine. When you go by
So what we have to do is, if anybody knows, or I'll talk to Brian when he comes back. I'm hoping Thursday. He'll be back, maybe tomorrow. No.
It goes along with there's a lot of maintenance things that we.
Okay.
could spend money on, but don't, because it works.
Okay. That's what I know about fences.
Okay, all right. That was good.
Kelly, would you like to move to that?
No,
Oh.
it'll pick you right
Okay.
up there.
We saved Greg for last because he's the best, He's got
I'm
the most one.
long-winded. I'm long-winded.
Best.
We love you all the same.
Absolutely, and if it wasn't for them,
Hey, I'm good.
yeah, if it wasn't
Just
for them,
butter
the
them up,
county
we're gonna get them later,
as a whole. So starting off with the federal aid bridge and highway projects, so County Route 18, which is Fish and Game, we had received the quotes and bids on that particular project. It was over budget. The Columbia County Transportation Advisory Committee had met and approved the additional funding of $1.3 million. That then went back to New York State Department of Transportation, and they're in the process of updating what's known as the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan for the state. So it was approved at the regional office down in Poughkeepsie, and then goes to Albany for final approval. So we're actually have an upcoming Transportation Advisory Committee tomorrow. Thursday. My apologies, Thursday. So I'm hoping to get an update at that time.
I think I tried to get in on the last one. Was that virtual, the last one?
The last one was virtual.
Couldn't get in.
Yeah. Stuyvesant Falls Bridge, again, similar, we requested a tip modification, so that was on the Transportation Improvement Plan. However, we asked for a modification to be made to move that up. So keep in mind, Stuyvesant, we had to put a reduced load posting on that particular bridge because of the red flag that was received. And so from that, we requested to make a modification to start that process as soon as this year for the engineering, which again, Transportation Advisory Committee has approved and Region 8 has approved as well. So we are going out to consultants at this point to gain requests for qualifications, and once
We approved after October, right, or something?
we can start spending money. Yes,
Right.
yeah, exactly. We can formally start that process. In the meantime, New York State DOT Region 8 out of Poughkeepsie is preparing the improvement plan, which is known as the IPP. And so they'll be sending that information to me for signature as well as to the
Great.
chairman for signature. So at least we're able to start that
Yes,
process.
no, great, thank you much.
That project, again, we're going to look at not only dealing with the preliminary engineering associated with whether it's a repair or complete replacement, but we're also going to have that design engineer deal with an interim repair.
Yeah.
So that way we can get that loading back up to what it, or remove the loading, I should say, completely. My apologies.
In Louisiana, that internal repair would be a couple guys with needle scalers and a bucket of paint.
That's I'm a little concerned.
Got it to 30 times.
I'm a little concerned with needle scalers because I think it'll go through some sections of it.
I know, I walked it. I was walking on that, after you guys mentioned, I went and visited it and I was walking on the grade. And I was like, man, I don't know if I should be on this grade. Don't
You used to drive on that grade. I mean, it wasn't that many years ago we paved over that, 92 or 93, I think,
Don't let them talk you into putting a light on that, though, a traffic light. We're doing that up in East Chatham.
Yeah.
Boom now.
Yeah.
That's because the railroad built a bridge you didn't want, but,
Single lane with pedestrian walkway,
Yes.
but low visibility. You guys at least have visibility coming in both.
I mean,
Correct.
I don't know, we may have to look at doing a 2-lane eventually because we're gonna take federal aid money for it, but a 1-lane really works there. I mean, nobody ever really complains about that. I mean, it could be a little wider for some of the vehicles today and the farm equipment and stuff, but
Yeah.
you never hear anybody, I mean, people stop and you look and you see a car, so you don't go, I mean, it works.
When it means Chatham, you just hope for the best.
Right,
We're having a huge problem because people are, now they've got the light up, people are running the red light all the time.
yeah.
It's impatient
Yeah.
and it's just, it drives you crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge safety concern. Under the Bridge New York program, Valley View over the Bish Bash. So again, after meeting with the residents and stakeholders, went back to the New York State, or actually to CTAC. CTAC had approved, again, getting additional funding. Region 8 down at Poughkeepsie has approved that. And again, it's sitting at the state level in Albany, hopefully, for their approval as well.
And I wrote a letter to say that the people in Culvert are very happy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody got a copy of that? We could
Yeah.
enter that into the minutes or something. You got a copy of that? That's just-
Yeah, people were very pleased.
Yeah, and so, again, just due diligence is looking at all the options, so we wanted to make sure that we put everything on the table, just knowing what the cost of construction is. I'm glad to see that we were able to make some modifications in the timing of projects to move some money around, to make it happen.
Yeah, that's great.
So.
Thank you.
Under the local bridge program. So one of the things the engineering department's doing right now is taking a look at the long-term bridge and culvert program and updating that. So in the past, engineering has looked at 5-year periods, similar to the tip, and earmarked large culverts and bridges that it would like to either do renovations or complete replacements. So for instance, in 2017 to 2021, that 5-year period, there were a total of 12 bridges and culverts that were earmarked to be either replaced or major rehab done. So between 2017 and 2021, only 3 of those were completed. There's an additional one, which is Woodward Bridge. That'll be slated to be completed in 2022. And we're hoping, if all goes well, to have 3 additional bridges and culverts completed by 2024. But that only leaves 7 of the 12 completed. So I bring that to the committee.
And meanwhile, new ones enter into the mix.
I was gonna say, I was gonna get one in front of the,
Right.
there and the committee maybe.
So that takes care of 2017 to 2021. For 2022, we're only 6 of the 12.
Right.
Okay, and we need to move forward because we have another allotment that we would like to get done. The reason I bring this up and the reason that we're going through this exercise as far as updating it, number one is updating our pricing and cost estimates. But number two, to bring it to the attention of the committee and hopefully share with the other supervisors, just like I did my presentation and provided my presentation to the supervisors on the state of the buildings and the fact that we're losing ground, we are losing major ground on our bridges. And so what's going to continue to happen is similar to what took place with the Stuyvesant Bridge. We're going to continue to run into these emergency situations with reduced load ratings that are going to impact fire safety, ambulances, school buses, things of that nature, and that heavy equipment trying to go over those. So I'm pleading to the committee, once I get this together, to take a look at that, to take a look at additional funding. Because the funding streams, although we continue to hear about the infrastructure bill, nobody at DOT knows how that's going to be implemented. The money apparently is there, but they don't know how they're administrating.
Is
Although
there?
the governor had 400 million for the bridge in Rensselaer that she wants to do.
Yeah.
But when you say it's there, is it down to the state level now? I mean, is it in New York State now?
DOT can't tell us yes. They actually cannot tell us whether it's at the state level. The DOT, based on the last 2 Transportation Advisory Committee meetings, I asked that very specific question: where does the infrastructure bill stand? Yes, it's been passed. Yes, there's money earmarked for the state, but it has not been delegated about how it's going to be administered yet. So the way that those programs work is they're federally funded, locally administered projects, okay? So that means the federal government takes the money, and in New York's case, it puts it to the state, New York State Department of Transportation in this case. And New York State Transportation then works within the regions down to the local governments, the county in this case.
So Washington has gotten it to Albany, but Albany hasn't gotten it to us.
And I will tell you that,
Doesn't it?
you know, I went to a NICEC conference a while back, the New York State Association of Counties, and there was representatives there from the National Association of Counties.
Yeah.
And they tell me that in many other states, the money is already in the county's hands.
Because it
The
goes
federal
directly,
aid money that
because in those states, yes, in those states,
bypasses the state, you
it
know?
doesn't go to the state, it goes directly to the county.
Oh.
Yeah, but New York State, nothing could be made. We have to add red tape. We can't take red tape away.
So we can
But
borrow some of it on the way by.
right, but you know, even not only, and again, I was pessimistic, and I didn't think DOT was actually telling me the real story. And actually, through Congressman Delgado, had a meeting with Supervisor Eldridge and Congressman Delgado regarding potential funding for Fairview Avenue. And I asked him regarding the status of the infrastructure bill. And he indicated, yes, it's been passed, but even as a congressman, he cannot get his answers from how things are going to be administered and why things are changing.
And what's the timetable when we expect that we'll know the answer?
I'm sorry for when,
The timetable, I mean, if it's got as far as Albany and we don't know yet what we'll get.
They have no answer.
they have no answer.
No
So,
answer.
so the unfortunate part of this is
Will it ever?
the grant program is open. So even though they don't know, even though the state has no idea how it's administering, and this is, I'm paraphrasing based on the information that DOT has provided to us at the Columbia County Transportation Advisory Committee. Even though they don't know how they're administrating it, the grant program is open for receiving applications. And those applications had to be in by December 25th, with only broad brush guidelines of what might be available. So that leads into my discussion, and future discussion is the county needs to be, in addition to funding, because currently, aside from the infrastructure bill, there's $750,000 that's earmarked towards bridges and culverts here in Columbia County
Per year.
per year. Okay, and that's been capped at 750. It's been 750 for years, and it's capped at 750 for the next 5 years. And when we're looking at our bridges and spending $2 million per bridge, 750 just isn't taking us. Yeah. So the other part of this and getting, discussions regarding the infrastructure bill is not only earmarking monies from the county to pay for bridges outright, but also to start looking and funding the design, okay, or preliminary design of some of these structures. So that way they become shovel ready for when these funding opportunities, such as not under the normal program, but the infrastructure bill. Because that's the type of projects that they're looking to fund, because they want to get even though they don't know how they're going to get the money out there on the street, they do want to get the money out on the street quickly. So.
And when it comes, it'll come
quick. And it'll go to those municipalities, but really at the state level, because they're the only ones that can afford it, to basically do all that pre-planning and to have those projects ready sitting on the shelf, to dust them off and say, oh, there's a funding application. Here's the project that we're earmarking. And those are the folks that will be getting that funding. So we need to be thinking in that manner as well, to get those projects and spend some money up front for engineering to get them shovel ready.
Good we have you, because the towns have to pay upfront money for engineering. Boy, does that get expensive.
It's very expensive, absolutely. West Taconic and Woodward Bridge. So West Taconic Bridge is complete. All the paving has been done. All the punch list items have been done. That bridge is open. The Woodward Bridge construction is estimated to start, or scheduled to start, first week of June. And so notices has been sent out to all the municipalities, as well as fire coordinator, fire departments, school districts, and that is going to be closed, as well as the highway departments. And actually, we used Facebook to provide that information as well.
Where's the
So,
Woodward Bridge?
Gallatin. As part of that, I do have a resolution for construction inspection and construction administration for CPL, and that would be a supplemental agreement for additional services on their part. I'll go in further depth, but when they provided their cost for those services last year, it was anticipated that both structures were going to be constructed during 2021. However, due to shortages as far as materials and supply chain issues, Woodward had to be pushed back to 22. So economy of scale is not there, so they had asked for some additional funding. I can tell you the first proposal they submitted anticipated total 22 weeks. So they wanted to have someone on site, actually a resident engineer on site for 22 weeks, the entire duration of the project. I rejected that proposal from them. I asked them to revise it, and they revised it down to using an inspector for only 14 weeks at the cost of $48,000 versus $114,000.
Thank you.
Okay. So if Supervisor Guzzi was here, I just wanted to make sure
That's right.
that 60,000 goes into that other column. When it comes budget time, and I look for
Right.
additional.
When you need another 5 million for bridges,
Exactly.
50,000,
Other engineering items, so Commerce Center wastewater conveyance system. So we've received applications or requests for 2 new connections. One is from the Stewarts at the intersection of Route 66 and 9H, which is actually, the building is now gone, so.
I thought they were gonna repurpose that building. I just drove by, I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's gone.
They fixed that right up. didn't they?
Yeah, it is officially gone. So there is a meeting next week with the commissioners of the water district to review that application and request and to approve it. If it does get approved, then it will come to the committee here for approval and then go to full board. It's already been submitted to the town of Greenport. Town of Greenport has already indicated that it has accepted that connection.
Yes.
The other request is a larger request from Dutch Village Mobile Home Park. And so that's located right off of 66. They're asking initially for as much as, I believe it's 24,000 gallons per day. Because they want to go ahead and get away from their own system and tie into theirs. It's a pretty significant.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that one still has to go before Greenport, and it has to be discussed at the commissioner's level as well.
And what does that do to your capacity to advertise future out of?
So the overall capacity that we have, right now, we're running at about 20,000 gallons per day. Stewart's will add about another 1,600, okay? The total capacity is rated at 75. So again, if the lead into that will be roughly, if Dutch Village comes on and if it is accepted, yeah, exactly. We'll still be sitting at just about half as far as that goes. The Greenport Transfer Station top-load building, that construction is ongoing. During an inspection, we found some issues regarding some of the framing. They had to add some additional trusses for the back area, all at the cost of the contractor and or the building supplier. I know the contractor and building supplier are going back and forth, but the supplier is shipping the units, and those units will be here next Friday. So they won't be here, or no, excuse me, this Friday, my apologies. They'll be here this Friday. So the contractors are not there this week, but they'll be back on Monday to complete that construction. Okay. But again, any change associated with those trusses is on
Their
them,
problem, yep.
not ours. Because again, the way that project went out, it was a design build.
Yep.
And it wasn't a detailed design when it went out. It was a design build. So all the onus is on the contractor. Department of Social Services. I was working with Brian in Department of Social Services as well as Jim Bragg and Bob Gibson regarding 2 air handlers located on the second floor of the DSS building. And unfortunately, one had failed where the coil is no good. The cooling coil is shot. And the second one has to do with the bearings in the motor are shot on the second unit. And this is just as we're going into the air conditioning season. These units are from the original construction of that building. So they've outlived their useful life. We needed to take some action to get things moving along, which would allow for the purchase of 2 new units to replace those existing units. But in addition to that, in the interim, is to make a repair on the one to replace the bearing, so at least we can get that unit up and running. So that is a minor cost. But then we also had to get supplemental air conditioning to feed that space because the space is so large. So originally we were looking at renting units. Brian was able to go online, get some information to actually purchase portable air conditioning units, 3-ton units. And so long-term, it makes more sense for us to actually purchase those rather than just simply renting it.
Last summer, we rented them half the year for the courthouse when we were down and out too.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And so that money's
we're
out the
gonna be
window.
needed someplace.
Yeah,
you know?
and so this way you'll have 2 units that the county has. So depending upon where the need may be, whether it's back at another location with DSS
The
or
Kelly
otherwise,
Bluff is next, you know.
it can be moved into those locations. Or it could be even used as a cooling station. So again, if a cooling station is needed temporarily,
More grant money.
these units can be moved into that. So the total cost associated with the repair and replacement is just over $60,000. In speaking with Jim Bragg as well as Bob Gibson, since it's through Department of Social Services, they get funding, and so it's going through their budget and through their items. Bob Gibson's been working with Jim as far as the coordination of that. But I wanted to bring it to the attention of the committee. Again, this continues to be the aging infrastructure and the fact that we're dealing with emergencies rather than, getting ahead of the game. So we need to try to continue.
And just to fill everybody in, I mean, for, going back quite a while now, I mean, that is a building that we kind of preliminarily took a look at with like Smart Water Centrica and energy upgrades. And Bob has talked to me about, the need for that. Fortunately, the building's not as old as say 401 is, so, it gets pushed back, but we have looked at that, but there's probably a $3 million investment over there one of these days to replace the chiller and the boilers and, all the air handlers. When these air handlers went bad, we did have Brian reach out to Centrica's engineer to see if we were going to do a project like that. These are the air handlers they would use. So we're putting them in now. If we did a full build out, they could stay there, so someday we do need to look at that building, but we're doing $2 million here this year.
Right.
So we're ordering 2 replacements, we're fixing 2, and
No,
we're
we're
buying
fixing-
2 portable?
We're fixing one.
We're fixing 1.
We're fixing one as an interim basis. So that's it's a $6,000 repair to fix the bearings, replace motor. So that way we can get 1 unit up and running, one of the 2 on a temporary basis. And then we're buying 2 portable AC units. And the reason being the lead time for these air handlers as a whole is 16 weeks. Yeah. So,
And we don't
Called
want
for
to be
a
like the
compressor the
Sam's
other-
Hotel in the Bahamas, right?
yes, exactly.
What was that working fluid that was lethal?
I have no idea. I have no idea I don't think anyone said. Yeah.
It's not 134, right? That wouldn't do that to
No.
anybody.
No. Yeah, I have no idea. And they haven't come out to say exactly what that fluid
Know what
is.
our-
I haven't heard anything new on that. 911 centers. So again, looking at the overall long-term building plans, I know the county had looked at the possibility of creating a backup center out at the fire training center. But then keep in mind, we have 610 where the existing backup center is. And one of the thought processes is to go ahead, move the entire 911 facility out to the fire training center. So that way they work hand in hand with the fire coordinator that's currently out there, and all of that operation is at that location. And then keep the existing 911 facility located at the sheriff's department as the backup. And therefore we're out of 610. So again, we're moving towards freeing up space at 610 as one of those older buildings to try to move out of and vacate in its entirety over a period of time. So at this point, what I've done is after speaking with Supervisor Not as well as 911, we've worked together as far as some requirements that they have to move a complete facility at that location. We're looking at actually a 2-story building rather than a 1-story building. We don't want to take up too much of that parking area and too much real estate at that location. So what I've done is I've prepared a request for proposal for engineering and architectural services for that purpose. And I have a resolution for this afternoon for the committee to authorize that RFP to go out. So again, the RFP right now is to simply post it, obtain those requests for proposals back, but the county is not obligated to move forward with those if it chooses not to do so. Okay.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So what would you expect that this would run us if, what will these RFPs come back at? What kind of money we're talking about? Ballpark. 100,000,
Yeah.
500,000.
The project was, right now, we've estimated it at 1.2, so.
Yeah, so I would say roughly 100,000. I'd say anywhere around 100,000 potentially for that.
Okay. And so, my own sense of this is that this is a sensible move, what we're talking about, to put everything under one roof or, in proximity. I like that. But the questions that I'm hearing about it are, well, why are we doing this now before we finish the master plan? So what's our time frame on that, the master plan?
Well,
I'm calling it the master plan. I forget what you called it.
yeah, no. So the overall plan, I actually anticipate this happening in stages. And again, I'm not saying that it's a moving target, but I see this taking a period of time to come up with the overall plan. But life isn't stagnant as well, and there are opportunities that we need to take advantage of. This one's an easy one. I can tell you one of the items that I feel very strongly about is 610 and trying to vacate that building. So where some opportunities are presenting themselves to possibly assist in that manner, I think it's prudent to move on those opportunities. 911 is, I would like to say, low-hanging fruit, okay? Because as you point out, it is a sensible move.
Right.
It's a natural transition.
Right.
The rest of the time frame, I hope to, I'm proposing this in a few phases, so I'm hoping to have this first phase provided to the committee sometime in the August timeframe, and then the other, portions of it in September, as far as that goes.
I got a tour of the one in the sheriff's office, but never the one at 610. I mean, is it a broom closet with a ham radio?
Yeah,
Now, would it save us money if we put a broom closet with a ham radio at the fire training center and kept the configuration at the sheriff's office as is?
No, because again, as the county continues to grow, we need to be looking for the future. It's serving its purpose now, there's no question. But again, I'm concerned about the long term as far as the capabilities of that facility, as they need to have additional calling stations and staff overnight even and during emergencies. And the nice thing at the fire training center is there's that large room, okay, the training room, that could be utilized for those emergency services. There's the very large garage bays, which could be, again, altered for another purpose as well, depending upon the type of emergency that they're dealing with. And again, I think getting everything out to that one location centralized makes a lot of sense. And that would free up space, obviously, at the existing facility, and that could be repurposed for the sheriff's office if they need additional room, as well as the backup 911 center.
I understand they've already taken some rooms away from 911.
Yes, they have. Yeah, they've already,
right
the sheriff's
into it.
office has already creeped into the 911 center
But
already.
they tell me when there's a 911 incident that, the space that we utilize out there just isn't big enough. I've never been there for a full-blown, emergency, but that's what I am told.
Well, I can tell you when there was the emergency, the last one that I was at, and that was back a few years ago when there was a landslide at.
Oh, yeah, I was there for that one, yeah.
In Greenport.
That was on a small scale.
That was a small scale emergency. However, that room was standing room only.
Yeah.
Between all the representatives at the county level, at the state level, including Department of Environmental Conservation, Army Corps of Engineers that were involved, state police, there was not enough room for everyone to be sitting in a station and actually be working. And again, the new fire training center with its larger conference room, as well as that larger area that could then be repurposed. Again, when I say larger area, the garage bay, if it needs to be converted at some point for an emergency purpose, it can be done very quickly. That's why that particular facility makes sense.
Most of what I hear you say, even speaking about the bridges and where we're at with the county, is that to move towards a more proactive instead of a reactive way of thinking to plan for the future.
Correct. Yeah, we definitely need to do that. Infrastructure as a whole, but then also how we're dealing with, whether it's departments and making them more efficient. And I think this in part makes it more efficient during an emergency situation, placing everybody under that one roof.
And there were a lot of people in that room that day.
And Ron, I've heard you talk, or I've seen correspondence from you with regard to the funding, but can you just give us an overview of that? The way you see, so
Yes.
I don't know if everybody knows, but we met out there with Dee Dee Barrett.
Right,
Yeah.
Let's say that, but go ahead. Jeannie was gracious to get Dee Dee Barrett out there. We had asked the assembly person for money. This all started a while ago that, we had budgeted, we set aside about $600,000 of ARPA funding for 911. When we talked about, getting more serious prices, and we haven't got an architect on board to actually do it all yet, but we did it by square footage, and we were saying, well, we're probably going to need more like $1.3 million. So at that time, it was decided if we could get some grant funding, we would look for grant funding and then try and couple it with the money that we had set aside in ARPA. So that's where we reached out and asked for $600,000 from the assembly person as well as the senator. The assembly woman came down and toured it the other day and seemed interested in that, But yet, in order to get these grants from, people like that, in order to be qualified for some of that money, you need real hard plans in place. That's where it pushed me to say, okay, we've already set aside some money from ARPA funding for this project. So let's use some of that ARPA funding to bring on the architect firm. And then we have a much better chance of getting some state grant funding for it, when you have those drawings in hand.
And
And it
just so
gives
I
us
understand, the
The biddable documents, they actually get a better price on that than nowhere else.
So we could use, it would be appropriate to use, you're suggesting it would be appropriate to use ARPA funds to pay for
Yes,
this?
yes.
Yeah,
For the architects.
So you can't use ARPA funds for matching grants, right?
correct.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct.
correct.
That is correct, yes.
So again, we're using the ARPA funding for the engineering portion of it, and we're probably gonna use ARPA funds for part of the project too, but if we can capture
Right.
grant funding in there, as we did when we got $1 million for doing the work that we already did at the fire training center, but it didn't come without having hard plans. I remember meeting, that was Senator Marcion that really approved a lot of that. And, we first met with her when we were in the infancy stages of doing that. And she said, it was one of her staffers that said, look, if you buy the land and you get the plans in place, and you're ready to go, then we can find you funding. And that's what happened. But we had to go buy the land. We had to hire the architect. We had to get it drawn up, get bonding approved, you get all those things, then you get the grant funding the
Yeah.
easiest.
It really, and again, to supervisors, not one, it really does boil down to that shovel ready. The state really
Right.
likes to have those projects shovel ready. It likes to know that the communities have made an investment.
Okay.
Okay, they have skin in the game trying to move these projects forward. And that's the ones that they're really interested in funding, because their hope is they want those monies to be expended. They don't want them to just die on the vine.
Right.
So they know that if the municipality, in this case, the county, has gone ahead and made an investment towards implementing the project, the likelihood of that success towards completion
Right.
is very good. That's the type of project they want to fund.
Linda kind of.
Linda, any question?
So right now, the backup is, at 610.
Yeah,
You wanna move it back up to the sheriff?
yes. So the present
You wanna
office,
move what's the sheriff to the
Fire.
fire
Trains.
training center.
Yeah.
And that is a separate building of 2 stories.
No, it's in addition to the existing building, 2 stories,
Oh, that's what got me confused. So you're adding,
to the existing
Yeah.
building.
on the south end of it, on the gable end, we're just doing this.
how does this relate to OFA?
It doesn't really.
It's nothing.
No.
No, this
It's a
is
whole nother,
correct.
Yeah.
and this is, what's the final number you're projecting for this?
For the overall cost, we were looking at roughly 1.2 for the overall cost. And that was including contingencies and soft costs.
Where's the backup right now, in the basement of 610?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And is the antenna also part of this discussion? Where does that antenna go? Or you need that antenna over at the fire station?
Now, in speaking with Rob Lopez, he indicated that although an antenna is preferable, it's actually not 100% necessary at this point. Eventually, he wants to have one there, but right now.
Where's there?
At the fire training center.
If
It doesn't go to the backup center? Or is there an antenna there?
I don't know if there is.
There's already antennas
Is there one
at
there?
the
There's an
back.
antenna at 610
Okay,
that projects from there to the hospital.
oh,
Hospital
okay,
to the antenna at the sheriff's office. For the sheriff's office, it goes to New Lebanon, to Blue Hill, to Austerlitz,
okay.
to
So
Copay.
it repeats
It's
off of
just,
that.
so it has to make all these little loops before it gets there.
So what do you
That's
do
why
with
it
that
sounds like
antenna? That's my question.
The antenna that's at 610, you mean?
Right,
That's gonna go away.
yeah, but how does this all? Now,
It's a link. It's like
doesn't matter.
a direct link, microwave link that goes from, if you look at the hospital.
So now it's gonna go from the sheriff's, backup.
It'll go from the 911 center, the new 911 center located at the fire training facility, over to the sheriff's office,
Okay.
and then disperse.
And then disperse from there.
And to get back to the OFA.
Yeah.
When we talked about that, Ron, you were talking about purchasing real estate, to put that
Yeah.
on, which was adjoining the fire station, right? So we're not talking about that.
No,
Because I would have an issue with that, that moving forward on
Yeah.
purchasing real estate in order to build the building when we don't have the master plan yet. But what we're talking about now is essentially building a wing onto existing
it's a
building.
rather small
Yeah.
addition. I mean, that building that's there is 10,000 square feet. We're looking at adding 2,000 square feet to it,
Yeah,
in rough terms, 2,500 square feet or something, so,
I mean, I think, just personally, this gets all very confusing because we talk about this building,
Yeah.
that building.
we have a lot of
I'm
buildings.
trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and my apologies, because there are opportunities, I don't want the county to be stagnant either while we're waiting, 6 months
Yeah.
to try to get this plan together. I think there are opportunities that the county was heading in a direction indicating that it was interested in doing a backup out of fire training facility. But in taking a closer look and looking at what their needs are and the potential for them to grow, again, looking, as Supervisor Eldridge said, looking towards the future, it makes sense that they're going to need more room. So rather than build a backup and then at some point in the future, have to build an addition at the sheriff's office for the existing facility, why not just make relief once?
And, I
My
know
apologies, it is
Right, it's all
confusing.
very-
I
And how's the sheriff's, how do they feel about that? I mean, how does that space relate? I mean, do they need that space?
well, they've already taken over the spaces where we took offices out of there.
That's my.
But the 911 center that's being used today will be the backup, so that's still gonna be utilized,
911 is for the move.
And in reviewing the other day when I spoke at the fire training center opening there, and I reviewed some of the minutes, I did find some minutes. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was probably 2015 or 16 when we started that plan. That then it was Officer DeRocca was on the committee with us then, DeRocca, and he had talked about having 911, at the fire training center if we had all the other offices there, So it's been a long talked about plan, was it the backup or the real one? That's a little bit adjustable.
And we still have room out there, the envelope going towards the wetlands that we couldn't fit the OFA building in, but could possibly something else.
A much smaller building.
Much smaller.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, it is very tight in that
Maybe a
area
shot
because
for
of the
facilities or something, they can, don't talk about that. There are other needs, that's,
So with that, I have two resolutions. The first one being a general resolution. A resolution is requested authorizing the Columbia County Commissioner of Public Works to publish, distribute, and hold an opening for a request for proposal for engineering and architectural services associated with the design and construction of addition to the new 911 center located on the Fire Training Center located on Grand National Drive within the County Commerce Center.
So this is the RFP that we could do. We don't have
Correct.
to use it, we don't want to.
Correct.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
motion and second, all in favor?
My apologies, Supervisor Mettler, the number that was provided to you as far as the costs, the $100,000.
Yeah.
That's for the design phase. If they ever get to the construction phase, I've asked for a total number, but I wanted to let you know that when the numbers are gonna come back as far as the proposal, it's gonna come back for the design phase and then a second number for the construction phase. Okay, so again, the
But
first
if we
phase.
were to engage this firm, we would be doing the design phase. And by that time, I'm assuming we're gonna have a master plan.
Right. And
So
you
with all
wouldn't
those
right, and you
caveats,
wouldn't necessarily engage them for the construction phase until you got to the construction phase of the project,
Right,
which is what we do.
by which time hopefully
But I
we'll
just
have
want-
promises of money from other people, yeah.
So I just want to let you know, when you see the numbers for that proposal when it comes in, it'll have multiple numbers. It'll have the design phase and then also the construction.
Construction services.
Now, is it, you mentioned 8 to 10% of the overall, is that the same for the construction?
I tend to use 10% for their purposes now. Again, I would like to be able to cut those back if we're able to do a lot of that in-house versus having someone sitting out there the entire time, which is what happened with the courthouse building. I think there's a savings to be made. Reasons as far as the whereas Columbia County wishes to build a new 911 center at the existing fire training center to better serve the residents and general public of Columbia County. And whereas Columbia County is seeking funding for the project and engineering and architectural design-related services are necessary in order to provide a shovel-ready project that would allow the progression of this project. And whereas Columbia County reserves the right to reject any and all proposals if the county wishes not to pursue the project.
Already passed.
Got a motion in a second.
Financial resolution. Resolution requesting authorization of the chairman of Columbia County Board of Supervisors to execute a supplemental agreement number 2 to County Professional Services Contract C273-19 dated 8/1/2019 between CPL and Columbia County for additional fees associated with the construction phase services for the Westaconic and Woodward Bridge reconstruction in the amount not to exceed $48,018. Whereas these construction phase services support an on-site inspection are necessary for the construction and oversight of the reconstruction of the Westaconic and Woodward bridges, and whereas supplemental agreement number 1 for construction phase services anticipated that the construction of both bridges would be occurring concurrently in 2021, providing for economy of scale, and whereas due to supply chain issues with the fabricator on the Woodward Bridge required that the construction of the Woodward Bridge be delayed until 2022 construction season, and additional man hours for inspections are now required to adequately provide the construction phase services for Woodward Bridge. The additional cost of these construction phase services are budgeted in 2022 capital account H1 5E5111-4000-E4000 under the force account bridge and are 100% county funded.
I'll move it.
Motion, in a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what was the original number of that?
The original amount was $114,000 for 22 weeks, and that was going to have a resident engineer.
Make sure we
on site.
tell Ray or Jimmy tomorrow.
Please, yes.
Finance.
Yes, please let him know.
Finance tomorrow, is it? Yeah. it is.
Yes, yes.
And with that, thank you to the other directors for putting up with it. That's it for engineering.
That's it for engineering. Any other questions for our county engineer? Very enlightening, we just need to find money.
That's always the key.
Yeah,
Got a lot of projects,
yeah.
a lot of good things going.
And,
but-
I think to everybody's point, and I know, to Jeannie's question about, the number of buildings, we do have a number of infrastructure, as we have a number of roads and highways and, equipment to take care of it, and it's all a moving target. Sometimes we don't know what departments need what room, 10 years down the road, it makes that hard to do, but, if you've been around county government, you know that most every agency we had used to be over in a courthouse, everybody fit in one building, and Matt can tell you over the years, different buildings were going to fix the problem. I don't think any one building is going to fix all the problems, but we have to keep moving forward. And so that we're not, if you listen to Brian, all you hear from facilities is that we put Band-Aids on all of our problems all the time. I'm grateful that Ray is trying to look at the head and say, what if we did this? What if we moved ahead? And we've done a lot. And, we renovated the courthouse. That was a $10 million project, 10 years ago. In the last few years, we've done, several $1 million worth of upgrades to mechanicals at different buildings. And that's good things. Those are positive things that we're doing so that those buildings are now worth more money and they go without problems, but you can't let up. You got to keep chipping away. So, keeping an eye on everything is a challenge. So we'll keep working on it. All right. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And sign Kelly, so you can get paid.
Here.
Take care. Thank you.
Not every